You've worked on growing your list. You've done freebie swaps and guested on podcasts. More people are aware of your business. Now what?
In part 2 of our marketing funnel series, we're talking about the middle of funnel and how to convert these warm people into buyers.
Being an online business owner is full of ups and downs. Some days you can't imagine going back to your 9-to-5, and other days you want to burn your whole business to the ground. We get it.
Welcome to Chaos to Conversions, a podcast of practical, no BS strategies to grow your online business. Each week, we're chatting about launching, copywriting, mindset, and more, so you can make sense of the chaos and do more of what works.
Join the conversation and let's grow together.
Welcome back to Chaos to Conversions. In episode 47, we started a conversation about marketing funnels. And in that episode, we chatted all about the top of the funnel, what it means, and strategies that you can use. Today, we are going to continue the series and talk all about the middle of the funnel.
So the middle of the funnel, and again, Melanie explained this last time, but it's called a funnel for a reason because it narrows as it goes down. So obviously, we're going to have more people at the top. And then as we move to the middle, we're going to lose some people. Not everyone is going to move to the middle of the funnel. But essentially, those who are in the middle of the funnel are warmer people in our audience, warmer customers, warmer leads. This is where people are really starting to research solutions for their problems and trying to decide if your solution or product is right for them. Sometimes this is called the consideration phase, but essentially what these people are doing is deciding if you're the right person. They know that they need someone to solve this for them or someone to help them or address the issue that they have. And they need to know if they can trust you to be the one to solve it. So trust is going to be really important here. Also, differentiating yourself from your competitors is going to be super important in this phase.
With that in mind, let's talk about how you can nurture your audience at the middle part of the funnel when they are trying to decide, basically, to put it bluntly, if they're going to buy from you or somebody else. Because if they're looking for a solution to their problem, they're either going to choose you or they're going to choose to spend their money elsewhere. So some things that we can do to help to nurture your audience who are already aware and they're like in your world. The first thing that, I think Branda and I have both been trying to do in all of 2024 is to continue to show up consistently with your marketing. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to have a podcast, a blog, a YouTube channel, do 4 reels every day and have a free Facebook group. That's not like at all what we're saying. We're basically saying just pick your thing and try and be as consistent as possible with that. So it was, I guess, around about this time last year, I said to Branda that I just simply cannot blog anymore because I hate it and I can't do it and I don't want to do SEO and I don't want to learn this. I don't really want to pay someone to learn it because I just don't love it. So I have ditched the blogging altogether, right? And we kind of leaned into the podcast. So you got to pick your thing. You got to pick what you like. For me, and I think also Branda, it's kind of the same. It's podcast, Instagram, and email. I almost forgot email.
Yeah.
That would have been embarrassing. But it's just about picking your thing and sticking with what you're going to do to build that trust and credibility with your audience.
And I think also important to note, people here show up consistently. And I think a lot of people here show up constantly. Again, you don't need to do 4 reels a day. You don't have to do, I know some people do podcast episodes every single day. I don't know how they do that, but you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You could do weekly blogs. You could do bi-weekly blog or bi-monthly blogs, right? Bi-weekly, bi-monthly. Twice a month is what I'm going for there.
Yes.
You don't have to send 3 emails a week. Pick the level of consistency that's right for you and then just try to maintain that as much as possible so that you can build that trust over time. Because if you publish a podcast one time and you don't show up for 3 months and you pop back in, those people that you did warm up, that you did move to the middle of your funnel are not going to be so warm anymore because you're not always there to help build that trust. That relationship is kind of, I feel like severed is a very harsh word, but it is not going to be as strong. And in those moments where you're not nurturing them, Unfortunately, your competitors might be. So that is why consistency is really important.
Definitely. And just pick, I mean, just like pick what you like. You don't have to do all the things. You can
Yeah.
just do like some of the things and do those pretty well, but not all of the things. The other sort of thing that the other aspect you can do besides showing up consistently to build trust and credibility is making sure that you are providing evidence, I want to say. I don't know if evidence is the right word, but establishing yourself as an expert in whatever it is that you're talking about or selling. So, this you can do by showing very easily like testimonials, case studies where you can just, talk about a client experience. You don't even have to, as long as you're not giving like identifying information, you can still use them as a case study. You can talk about your experiences, your story, and how you got to where you are in your business, any sorts of like statistics or evidence, because this is going to appeal to both your like emotional type buyers who want to like hear your story or other people's stories, but also like logical buyers who want to like actually see the numbers. You know what I mean? What do you think, Branda? I'm surprising you with this question. What do you think about like the whole screenshot income method? I recently got on someone's email list and she's a bigger name and she's been around a long time. I just wasn't on her email list. And she is like constantly sending like screenshots of her. I feel like I'm leading you with my tone of voice now, but she's like constantly sending screenshots of like her PayPal account and
Yeah.
like Kajabi. Tell me your thoughts.
I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say those things are very persuasive. Like,
Sure.
I find myself getting caught up in it. I think earlier I was actually watching a reel and someone was like showing a screenshot of like all the emails they've gotten this year of like, look how many sales I've made like in my inbox. But the
Yeah,
truth is, I also know the behind the scenes of so many businesses where I've heard so many people saying like, I'm struggling right now, or my sales have gone down. I also know like people personally who like
sure.
post about who are like, I know they're using testimonials from like, or screenshots from like a year ago,
Mhm.
and I say personally that they're not my friends. Like I'm not friends with these people. They're just people that like I've said like I follow them enough to know like I've seen that before. Like I know that you posted that like a year ago, right? So
Sure, sure.
anyways, with all that in mind, not saying that someone can't still be really good at sharing those things, but I just feel like you have to take them with a grain of salt, which is I personally don't like to share income things like that and income claims because I mean, even as a service provider, if you looked at my income that came in, I could show you 1 month and you'd be like, wow, Brandon must be like balling out. Like she's probably like driving a yacht, And then the next month you'd be like, does she eat? Like, can she afford food? So it's like, it's up and down all the time. Like, that's just business, right? It's rarely ever super consistent. So I feel like you do have to take those things with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and I guess it goes back to like they don't really bother me. I don't put too much stock into them.
Yeah.
I think that it's can be important to share those sometimes because there
Yeah.
are people who like really put a lot of weight into that. So
Yeah.
I guess it could sway, some people as long as you're being authentic. But anyway, I've just recently gotten on her list, I don't know, in the last month or so. And man, you share
Yeah.
a lot of bank information via
Yeah.
screenshot, via email. But it is uh, to show like what's possible. You know what I mean? It is something I guess to consider as long as you're being truthful. Anyway, that was a small tangent.
No, I think that's the important part is like, it's the authenticity. Like, if you know I'm sharing something that really isn't that true, right?
Yeah,
And then you probably shouldn't share it just to make yourself look more important or more successful than you may feel like you are. I would rather like see actual authentic things from people.
sure.
Like I share stats from my clients, like when we've done projects together and things like that. But obviously I try, but obviously like not every email I send is going to be amazing. And I'm not going to share like every email that my clients send. Not every email is making them hundreds of sales. So I might not share those things all the time. Right. But that is the
Yeah.
honest truth too, is I think that's kind of the balance there is obviously we tend to share like the best of the best. But that doesn't mean everything is like succeeding to our wildest dreams. Some things are just normal, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like social media, right? It's all a
Yeah,
highlight reel anyway
exactly.
to wrap it all up. So, establishing and nurturing people in the middle of your funnel, creating and establishing yourself as an expert, and there's, as we just discussed, a lot of different ways to do that. Another way you can do that is through, a really good freebie. And I use the term freebie very broadly because that could be a PDF, a free training, a free webinar, a free template. There's lots of ways to establish and provide value for your audience through free content, whether it's like just content or actual, things that they're going to get and be able to kind of implement.
So, kind of the last strategy we wanted to touch on here is guesting. So, we did talk about this as a top of funnel strategy, and it definitely can be a top of funnel strategy, bringing people into your audience, helping them get to know you. But you could also use guesting to help you with your warm audience and middle of funnel as well. So, again, guesting on different podcasts, blogs, email lists, doing freebie swaps. This can really help build trust and credibility fairly quickly because you're doing it through another person. So, if I'm hopping on someone else's podcast and their audience already has a really established idea of them and they really trust them, and then I come onto that, it kind of, yeah, it establishes that trust a lot quicker. It's kind of like introducing one of your friends to another one of your friends. Obviously, that relationship is going to be built a lot faster because I already kind of trust you. And so, like, oh, well, if you think she's cool, then I might think she's cool too, rather than like me introducing you to a stranger that I don't know that well. I might be more skeptical about getting close to that person. So, it's the same idea with every week guest. We're kind of sharing in that person's trust and credibility. And so, that can help us move people a little bit faster and warm them up a little bit faster in that kind of middle of funnel.
In the middle of the funnel, your audience is warm. They know they have a problem and they're wondering if you have the solution. Create content that builds trust and establishes why you are the person to help them. So let's talk about some of the action steps you can take right after listening to this episode or over the next couple weeks to sort of look more in detail at the middle of your marketing funnel. So we talked about this a little bit with the top of the funnel as well, but a welcome sequence is going to be super important if you are moving people through the middle of your funnel and hoping to get them to buy by the end of it. You might have heard, I don't remember what episode it was, but it was the episode about like, if you don't have these things in your business, we want to cry, where I mentioned that I had no sales email in my welcome sequence. So, although my welcome sequence was lovely and nurturing, they had no opportunity to purchase from me. So, I would recommend after you take a look at the overall metrics of your welcome sequence, so taking a look at like your click rates and your open rates and making sure, and actually, I'm going to put Brand on the spot here. What's like what would you say? I don't actually know if I know this. What would you say is a good open and click rate for like a welcome sequence? I mean, it's high. It should be really high, but is there like a number?
Yeah, it kind of depends on which email. The first email is going to be super high. The open rate should probably be like, I would say 60% or above. I'd say most of my clients see 70% or above for their first initial email. And then the click rate should be probably 10% or above.
Okay, I should look
Again,
at mine.
yeah, depending on kind of what you have. And then it's going to dwindle as it goes down, right? As you start
Sure.
getting into the sales emails. But you typically are going to see like probably between 50 to 70% open rates throughout your sequence. And I'd like to say for the click rate, it's usually double to triple what you normally would see on like a weekly email. So if you're used to seeing like
Okay.
2% click rate, maybe you might see like 4 to 6% on
Okay.
your welcome sequence, or maybe a lot higher. Some people have like really amazing. I've seen some of my clients have like 17% kind of across their welcome sequence. So
Wow. Well, I'm gonna look at mine here in just a minute, but and you should all look at yours as well. So now that we have some sort of benchmark numbers to look at, check out your actual metrics for your welcome sequence. Make sure that as we get into the end of your welcome sequence, you actually are going to have an opportunity for them to make a purchase, which will then take them to the bottom of the funnel, which we're going to talk about in the third part of this series. You also want to make sure, take a look at your pin post on Instagram, for example. So it could be a really good idea And this can kind of straddle the top and the middle of the funnel, but making sure that you have some pinned post at the top that tells people really easily who are just discovering you a little bit about you and also how they can work with you or what they can, purchase from you. Like how can you earn their trust and then therefore, later on their money. Give yourself a quick audit of your welcome sequence, your pin post on Instagram. If you have an about section on your website, taking a look, making sure that you're establishing credibility and trust there as well.
The last few things you can do is make sure you're sharing some compelling case studies and testimonials. We talked about that, but let people know what it's like to work with you and what it's like to buy from you. Are your products great? Tell us about it. Allow them to also start small. This kind of to me straddles a bit of like middle to bottom of funnel, which again, we'll talk about in the next episode. But I really do feel like this can fit in the middle of funnel. So let's say you have a really inexpensive buy, like a $3 product, a $9 product. If you're someone who does sell on a marketplace like TBT, then a lot of your products might be in that kind of cost range. So it also depends on like what sector you are in. But for those who might sell like services or like more high priced courses or something like that, giving them a chance to invest in a really small amount is a great way to kind of let them get a taste of what it's like to work with you before they really become that like loyal, consistent customer. Also, make sure that you are investigating your metrics and your data to make sure that your content that you're putting out there is registering with your audience. It is converting your audience, whether that be converting them from, an email to reading something or watching something, or converting them to actually, hopefully, eventually buying something. So you can look at your bounce rates, you can look at consumption rates, you can look at open rates, click rates, all of those different pieces that go into your different content. And I know, Melanie, you have a great KPI tracker that they could track all of that in.
I sure do. Actually, I can leave the link for that in the show notes. I was creeping on my welcome sequences at the end of this because it's like if I don't do it now, I don't know if I ever will. And they're good. They're within the metrics. So check on yours, do yourself a favor. If you do want to track your data this year in 2025, I will leave the link to my KPIs tracker in the show notes. Speaking of cheap entry level products, it's pretty reasonable. So check it out if you want to be more on top of your data this year.
Yeah. And if you want to stay on top of your emails this year and you want some help, I have retainer spots open for 2025. So I can take your weekly emails off your plate and help you do some of that nurturing and warming up. And you don't have to stress about it. You just pass off the topics to me. I do the writing. I can schedule them for you. And you can take care of all the other things you have to do in your business because we know there's a lot. So if you're interested in either of those things, the KPI tracker or becoming a retainer client, you can find those links in the show notes. Thanks so much for joining our conversation today. If you enjoyed this episode, please head to your listening app and leave a quick rating and review.
If you're on Instagram, share this episode and tag us at Duxbury Digital and at The Relevant Collective. We'd love to hear from you. We'll meet you back here next Tuesday for more practical strategies to take your business from chaos to conversions.